Hi, I'm Joshua.
And hi, I'm Chloe,
Welcome to the Musical Chairs podcast.
where we review a new musical every week and discuss about it.
Yeah, so how are you?
I'm pretty good. I really again, I hate school,
Yes, I'm
and
tired.
I do like 15 chapters of reading for this one book. It's really annoying.
Oh,
So
oh,
yeah, that's not pleasant. But
not great.
yeah.
So I guess let's just get into our musical this week. Our musical this week is Newsies. Newsies was originally based off the 1992 film by the same name, and it's a musical about. It's based off the 1899 Newsboy strike, and it has music by Alan Menken, which we've talked about the music before on the podcast.
In Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes, lyrics by Jack Feldman, and the book by Harvey Fierstein. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Newsies premiered off-Broadway September 25th, 2011 at the Paper Mill Playhouse and premiered on Broadway in the Nederlander Theater on March 29th, 2012 and closed August 24th, 2014. It has won many awards, including Tony Awards for Best Music and Choreography and Drama Desk Awards for the same categories. And the movie... the original movie, the 1992 movie, starred Christian Bale as Jack Kelly.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's one of my favorites.
Yes.
But what it's about is it's basically telling the story of the rebellious Jack Kelly, the troublesome newsboy who dreams of a better life in Santa Fe, which he sings about later. And he dreams to be an artist. And after finding out that Pulitzer, the head newspaper guy, has raised the newspaper price by an outrageous 10 cents, which was like a lot at the time.
Yeah.
Jack and his fellow newsies organize a strike. And with the help of the reporter Catherine Plummer, they make an impact on the entire city of New York.
Something fell there?
Yeah, I dropped my pen.
Oh. Well, the cast and characters. So Jack Kelly in the original Broadway was played by Jeremy Jordan. We love him. Joseph Pulitzer. That's how you say it, right? Pulitzer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was played by John Dossett. Catherine Plummer was played by Carrie Lindsay. Davy Jacobs played by Ben Brankhauser. And the Les Jacobs, which there's 4, kind of like the Matildas. So R.J. Fattori, Vincent Agnello, Louis Grazzo, Matthew Schuster, and that's because the character is a child. And Crutchy was played by Andrew Keenan Bulger, which I have something about him, was that I learned while he's beautiful, looking stuff up, was that he was in the original workshop for Newsies. So he was in the workshop all the way to Broadway.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So, and he was the only person in the whole cast that stayed from the workshop all the way to Broadway.
Wow. Yeah, he's talented. He deserves that in every single way.
Very good.
So, yeah. What is your favorite song?
Favorite song? I mean, kind of cliche, but like Santa Fe.
Oh, okay. So I started listening to this musical in like 7th grade. And I have loved that song ever since then. Mm-hmm. But other than that one, like that one probably has to be my top favorite. But other than that, I love Seize the Day.
Oh, yes. I also like, I don't know what it's called, but like the one where Catherine is like talking about like, I have to write this thing, but I also have never written anything before and I don't know how to do this.
What happens?
Yes, that one.
Yes. I like that one too.
That one.
It's like really fast and it's really cool because she's so good. So yeah, those are my favorites. I also love all the dance numbers in Seize the Day.
Oh, yes.
They're so good. So who are the actors, and we already explained. And is there any one in particular?
Oh, I think this was actually Jeremy Jordan's, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is like his big like break. Like this is like what got him like really popular. Which he had been like on a few Broadway things before, but like he never really like kicked off. But like Newsies was like his big like thing. It's like, whoa, look at this guy.
And then like after that kind of happened, he was also Heather and JD, or Heather and JD. What the heck?
He was both. He played both at the same time.
He was JD in Heathers. He was. He also played Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors once. He was also one of his main things was he was Clyde in Bonnie and Clyde, and yeah, like I follow him a lot because I just love him so much.
Yes,
and I have ever since I started listening.
Yes.
So yeah, I would probably say he's the one I admire the most.
Oh yes, getting into that question,
so
definitely.
Good.
His voice is so
Pure.
crisp and it's amazing.
I know, he's so good. And like about like actors and characters and stuff, like my favorite character is probably Crutchy. Just because
me too. I was about to say that, yeah.
He's so like wholesome, and I love it.
I also love how like in all the dancing, like he obviously can't just throw away his crutch and walk off stage, because like there's literally like I saw once where he had to get him off stage, but there was in the middle of the dance number, so he couldn't like shimmy through them. So I literally saw one of the guys that he had to pick him up and like run off stage with him. Keep in mind, like he's pretty muscular, so he's not light. He's not gonna be light. So and so he literally just picks him up and just starts running off stage, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, all of them are so muscular, and it's so
Very
admirable.
much.
If I could be cast in the musical, who would I want to be?
I mean, I feel like there's only really, with female roles, there's only one where you could really fit.
Yeah, I think probably Catherine.
Yeah.
I probably personality-wise and wanting to be a role, probably her.
Yes.
Because she's just a whole cool little character.
Also kind of the only one that you could really do.
Yeah, pretty much. There's
like two female, there's like, the nuns are in like one song for like 3 seconds though.
There's Meta, who's the owner of the theater and performs That's Rich, and then there's Catherine.
Oh, there's also the lady that like, the like helper lady.
Helper lady.
With the newspaper guy.
Oh, yeah, but she's, like, there for, like, 0.5 seconds.
She's really funny, though. I love her.
Yeah, she is.
But she's kind of, because, like, the other character, like, what's her name? The owner of the theater?
Meta.
She's a black woman, so you're you're not that.
Out of that category. Oh, the only other female characters are the dancers at the theater, and they sing a little bit. They have a big number, which is kind of cool, but, like, again, it's not much, so...
For me, I don't know, probably Crutchy, or I mean, very big role, but Jack Kelly.
That would be so cool. I love it. I just love him. I have for such a long time.
Yes.
Like ass and stuff like that. Like.
Oh yes, she saw like, what was it? It was like a
local show. I probably shouldn't say the names of the people, but it was really good. If someone's watching this that was in this show, you were fantastic. Especially the guy who played Jack Kelly. You were so good. Oh my god.
I mean, I'm just agreeing with you. I didn't see it. You were the one that saw it, but historical background. So we mentioned it very briefly, but this is, what was it? Yeah. It was it was 99, right? 1899.
Yeah.
I think
the
strike against, because the same thing happened where pretty much the same thing where the newspaper boys were like, they were selling stuff and they're already very poor. Like in the musical, they're like, they literally sleep in the streets. So they're already super poor. And then he has to bring it up 10 cents, which at the time was a lot of money. So that he brings up the money 10 cents and they're like, what the heck? Excuse me. So then they like boycott, and so that's based off of that. Also, another thing with the movie, which was 1996?
1992.
1992, okay.
Yeah.
So 1992, for that, when it first came out, people did not like it.
Yeah, my dad is the one who introduced me to Newsies, and he said he did not like the movie.
Yeah, a lot of, like, it was taken very badly. Like, a lot of people were like, this is gross.
Musical.
I looked on, like, I think like on like Rotten Tomatoes, and it has like a 30 something score,
Yeah,
like
it's so
30%
good.
something. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
seen it. I've only
I
seen
haven't
obviously
either.
the one on Disney Plus.
Hmm.
With I mean I guess they're both on Disney Plus, but like like the
Yeah.
stage that they recorded.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, I'm
Um,
so glad they have that on Disney Plus because
yes.
we love Jeremy Jordan so much,
Yeah.
and it is so cool to see him performing live like that. So cool.
Yes.
Um,
Um,
what was I gonna say? There. Oh, oh wait, that's
who
off
would you
topic.
recommend this musical to?
Um, see, I personally would recommend this musical to like two different types of people. I would recommend it. I was like to people who like really are about like the dancing in musical theater.
Hmm.
Like
Oh,
they like
this is a
really.
huge dance musical.
It's probably one of the biggest ones
Which
out.
you probably know if you are into musicals and theater at all. This is like huge on dance.
Uh-huh. That's like what it's known for, like its
Yes.
choreography.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I would also recommend it to like younger people because it's kind of like very like empowering, and it's
Hmm.
like very like it's not dark at all. It's pretty strong, and
Yes.
it's good education as well. So like when I was younger, I really enjoyed it. I watched it for the first time in like fourth grade, and I
Hmm.
really liked it. And then I got into it in like seventh
Yeah.
after the show. So
It's very good. What would you rate it? I mean, I'm just gonna like pretty much agree with you. With
10.
yeah,
I love
yes, 10 out of 10.
I have a shirt.
Definitely.
Like it's like the lyrics of "Seize the Day"
Yes.
all over it. I have loved it for so long. So good.
You
10
didn't show
out of
them
10.
your hat.
Oh yeah, I have a
So
Newsies
yeah, if
hat.
you're watching on YouTube, she has a hat.
Story of the hat. I was in an ice cream shop and I was
Oh.
just like there, and then I was like, "That's a Newsies hat," and it was like on like a hat shelf, and I was like, "Can
Oh.
I have it?" And I like really wanted it, so I persuaded my parents to get it, and now I have it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
I didn't even know
I
that.
actually dressed up as Jack Kelly once, and it was
Wow.
a thing for a minute, but yeah.
Very nice.
So,
So yeah,
yeah,
no, definitely. Also, just recommend it to really anyone that just likes musicals.
yeah, it's a good
It's
one. Just
really
for
good.
theater. Like everyone who is into theater should know what this is
Yes.
because it's like the most iconic
Yes. And
choreography.
I haven't watched it yet, but like I've heard about it. I've heard songs from it. I've like definitely
I thought you watched it. Didn't you
no.
send me videos on Disney Plus?
Well, I watched it for this week. I hadn't watched it before, like prior.
Oh, I thought you were saying like this. I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you not
No,
watch?
I have seen it. I saw it for the podcast, and it was very good. I'm just saying I haven't seen it prior to the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, I've
Yeah, I
heard.
was like, huh?
But yeah, it's
But
very good. Um, so yeah,
yeah.
from now on, there will very likely be spoilers. So unless you're fine with spoilers or if you know it pretty well, keep watching. Or if you don't want to know spoilers, watch on Disney Plus. It's very good. Um, Listen to it. It's amazing.
It
Uh,
is.
so yeah. Okay. So I just want to start with although we briefly went over it, the choreography.
Oh.
It's so good. And absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So like I was telling my sister because she's like a gymnast or whatever, and I was telling her, oh yeah, you would really like this musical because it's like all about the back handsprings and the back flips and
Yes.
like they had to know that like they had to like train
Yes,
for that,
definitely.
and I was just like it was like making fun of me in a sense because I cannot dance. But
Yes.
this is
I
like,
can like I can get the choreo down.
yeah,
I can get the choreography down and I can do the choreography.
I
That's me.
can't. I can't. Like I can get it down. It's just the fact that I just look like a fool whenever I dance.
And yeah, the
Like
fact
I
that they're like
worried.
dancing, which I like get tired. Can you actually turn me down a little bit? I can like hear myself a tiny
Oh,
bit. Yes.
okay.
It's
Is
fine.
that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like they're dancing so much, like very like I'm out of breath just like dancing like a little bit. And they're like full on like doing like flips and like throwing each other and like lifting each other up and like jumping off things and like doing like backflips and stuff and singing at the same time.
I know. So like, okay, so like probably the heaviest dance musical that I've ever been in is Mary Poppins, and that was such like I was exhausted when I was doing it. Like I could not catch my breath. I had to like sing in between words because it was so like I was so tired. But
Even in
like,
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, you were like during Toot Sweets that because we were both in it. I was Potch. She was what were you?
uh-huh. I was
Jemima.
Jemima. Yeah.
Which my daughter. Which we were like she was I remember like having like her watching her and she was like struggling her way through the choreography.
I know. I was not doing so hot. Like
I
I'm
didn't
not
have choreography in that song. I had very little choreography in that song.
Yeah, you were just kind of like toot sweets and just like
Toot
talking
Sweets.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good song.
But yeah, they're
But
like
anyway,
dancing and like singing so much and like they don't look out of breath and I'm like
I know.
how?
But like at the end of carrying the banner, I was just like taking like notes in my mind like about the performance because I do that. And at the end of carrying the banner, they were like at the end, like they were breathing so heavily while they were looking into the audience, and I was like, I bet, because they were just like backflipping and doing all that crazy stuff.
I end up like at the end of a number when they're all like posing, you could just all see them like you're like their chest just like.
And I know how that feels like, because at the end of Step in Time, which was our biggest dance number, it was so much, and then like we were all when it ended, we were just like how did we pose? We did a jump. And then we were like just there, like smiling, and then I was just like breathing so heavily, and that's not even as much as they do. Like they do much more, like with backflips and crazy amounts.
And they're like it's insane what they do. It's very, very, very impressive. Like literally, the cover for it is literally one of them jumping in the air, like like that, like jumping in the air. Like doing some sort of kick.
Yeah, it's just like that's what it's known for. Like Newsies choreography. That's what it's known for.
Yes.
Like when you hear that word, you think of these hats and they're dancing.
Also, one thing, their accents are so good.
I love them. They're really good. I cannot
very,
do
very good. I was watching and I was like, what is are they doing an accent or is that just them talking? Like,
yeah, they were really good. It did not sound forced or fake.
It didn't sound like it just sounded like it was just coming off naturally.
I feel like the only people who didn't have accents were like the people who are more like educated.
High class.
Yeah, like high class, like Catherine and Pulitzer and stuff like that.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the Newsies had a lot of slang that they used
exactly.
and like a lot of like cutting off words and like shortening words and stuff.
Yeah. I love how they like add S's to a lot of things. It's like I thinks or like I said. Like that just adds to the character a lot. Like that's my favorite parts about the accent.
So, which I think was one thing with Davy, right? That's that one. Where he's like he's kind of like he's like the only one that has it with his brother Les, where they have a family already. They like all the Newsies are like they don't have any family members, like it's just them. And they like have a mom and dad, and they're just working just to get some money for the family. And they just like, and so they've already like they were in school for a little bit, you know. And a lot of the Newsies weren't. So like when they come in, they already speak. Like their language is more closer to the people of higher class. Although they aren't high class, it's closer to that.
It's closer, yeah. And they still have the accent, but it's not as like
not as strong. And I realized that as it continues, that like the Davy he started incorporating more slang in his like when he talked, and like he started like saying like says like stuff like adding the S's at the end and stuff. And I noticed like because he's like started becoming like closer to the Newsies. And so like started using that slang that they're using because he's getting more used to it.
So yeah, talking about, I have two things. So the first thing is like it's brilliant that they incorporate the accent in like different classes, and they also think about the progression of Davy's character and how he incorporates his accent more throughout the show, which is something he had to learn how to do as well.
Yes.
And the other thing is like with Davy, I love him like generally he was kind of like a annoying at the beginning.
Yes, he
but,
was. Because he was
but
just
I
because
think his
he didn't know
progression.
anything about the Newsies or anything at all. He didn't
Yeah, he
understand like
doesn't.
any of like I guess their
Uh,
etiquette. I mean, they don't have
yeah,
etiquette, but like
exactly. But like, yeah, you get it. Like he has good progression because eventually he was like, "No, we're not starting the strike. What are you guys doing?" But then eventually he was the one who was like leading the strike
yeah, he was the
throughout
one
the whole.
getting Jack back into the strike after he
Mhm.
left.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how this kind of like starts. So like Jack and Crutchy are like friends, and they're like on their rooftop singing about Santa Fe because they
Yes.
want to like go
And
live somewhere
Crutchy has
else.
crutches, in case you didn't know,
Yeah,
because he has a broken leg.
because he has a limp.
Yeah,
But
so it's like a nickname. I want a nickname like that. Like like when someone just like this happened to me once, where someone just like comes up to you and just gives you a nickname, and they just call you that for the rest of the time they know you.
yes,
I want
yes,
that so, and I had that once.
I had that once too.
Except I didn't know that I wasn't very close to the person, so I
Me
didn't
either.
hear it that much. But I loved it.
Uh,
It's so fun.
it is a lot of fun.
But
Like
yeah,
the person who I knew, they just were like, "I'm gonna call you Clover from now on."
I
And
call
I
me
was
Joshua.
like, "What?
Joshua. I
Oh,
changed the O to an I.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun."
But yeah,
Um,
so yeah, they like Crutchy, and you keep going
yeah,
to what you're talking about.
and then they're there, and they're like, Jack is talking about like Santa Fe, and Crutchy's like, "You got folks there or something?" And he's like, "No." Like I didn't really understand what he wanted with like Santa Fe.
I
Like
think he just wanted to be there because I
he
think
just
he
wanted to
just
be there because it was like a small town or something
yes,
like
because he didn't like the big because so like
the big.
also you just know everyone, no one really like you're
Mm-hmm.
not too worried about living
Yeah,
existing.
exactly. Because he has his whole reputation, which is where like in carrying the banner and stuff like that, like he is like the leader of the Newsies, and that song
hmm
is like talking about like their life and like how it's going and like
Yeah.
how like it's so like messy, but it's like what they do.
Yes.
And I also like that song too because it's like just like a feeling of like togetherness with all of them.
Yes.
It's a good song.
hmm
And then we meet Pulitzer, which we haven't talked about much, but
Yes. So
he's
he's
very
like the
annoying.
head guy of like the newspaper business pretty much. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's like, we need to sell more newspapers. So it's like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna rack the price up because then what the news have to do, they have to buy the newspapers first and then sell them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Um,
Which I don't think makes sense personally.
it
That's
doesn't,
not
but they're scamming them. Obviously, they're just trying to get money.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
like, and so like that, which is one thing with Davy, which he didn't know that he was just like, I would like however many newspapers he asked for. It's like, okay, where's the money? It's like, don't I pay you after I sell them? He's
After
like,
you sell them,
no, you pay
yeah.
them right now. Right now you pay me. It's like, okay, well, will you pay me back if I don't sell them? I was like, no,
And at
give me
the end,
money.
they agree to that, but like
Yeah.
at the beginning,
At the
like it was
beginning, that
like,
was like not. They were just like, huh? And so then
yeah.
eventually he was like, and so yeah, so it's very scammy, not
Mm-hmm.
great, and they can't really do much about it or at least they thought they couldn't. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Pulitzer, he's just like the head guy of the newspaper. He's like, if we rack up the price to 10 cents, the Newsies have to sell more papers to get the same amount that they were earning before.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's what he did. So he's like, I'm gonna bring it up, and then
Yeah, and that was the bottom line. That's the
mhm,
song for that. And it was just like so like ugh. Like I hated that.
I
I
hated him.
don't like it.
And
And
then the Newsies the next day, they're like, what is this?
yeah, like what's going
I'm
on?
like, what's
Like
going on? And then they're like,
yeah,
okay, fine, I'll go to a different place and get them. It's like, and
yeah,
then news are like, hey, this place is also racking up their prices. Like every place has made it from 50 to 60 cents.
uh-huh.
Um,
Which was a big deal at the time, especially
big
because they
deal.
could barely feed themselves. They're
Yeah,
like
they could
living.
barely feed themselves with like such little money they had, and just 10 cents more was like would probably be like 100 more for us or something.
Yeah, it was no good. It
hmm
it was such a struggle. Like it was not fair to them at all. The
Yeah,
poor kids, like they were all just kids. Like they were just
yeah,
trying to
really.
support themselves. And then like after that, they they like decide to go to Meta's theater, who we haven't talked about yet at all. Metta's really good,
I
actually.
love her.
She's kind of underrated.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't get enough attention.
So yeah, she's pretty much this lady that owns this theater, and she's kind of like, I guess, in cohorts with the Newsies because they kind of like
Yeah.
they like she's like friends with them like all the time. She like the first scene that we see with her, she's like hugging Jack and being like, "Hey, it's nice to see you again,"
Yeah, and the
and
reason
like
why
lets
she
them
knows,
into the theater for free.
yeah, it's because he paints all her scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
how he
we didn't
is
say this.
in.
Jack is like an amazing artist, but
I
he's kind of
know.
stuck in this Newsies business.
Yeah.
Um, so he's just kind of been stuck in that, and so he has a new. So yeah, he paints all the backgrounds for the theater.
Yeah, he paints all the little scenery in the background, and like he's actually really good, and that's kind
Very
of why
very
he's
good.
hoping to go like to Santa Fe because he wants to be like an artist, but he
Yeah,
could never do that in
can't.
New York because
Yeah,
it's too like expensive. He can barely afford to feed himself.
yeah.
But Meta lets him do it for free,
Mm-hmm.
so like that's well, actually, she said she would pay him like once the theater starts to get better, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And then which is I think pretty soon after that is where he meet. Actually, no, he met
He met
Catherine briefly before,
in the beginning in carrying the
trying to get
mail.
him. Yeah, trying to get her to buy a paper.
Uh-huh.
She didn't.
And then, speaking of Catherine, in the theater, he's like catches her there, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, Catherine's here." And then he goes up with her into her little private balcony
Oh
because
yeah,
she's
because
like
she has a private one.
reviewing the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because she's
and
a news
then
reporter that's like an up and coming one that like hasn't really done anything yet.
yeah, and then she is like writing. She's like doing a
Taking
review on that.
notes.
And then Jack starts like drawing a portrait of her
Mm-hmm.
in his little newspaper, and then
Yeah.
she was like, "Wow, that's actually really good," because he's so good at
Yes.
his talent.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and then after that, they're like, "We're doing a strike because of the newspaper."
Yeah.
So yeah, and then during it's like the world will know or something like that for the song, but it's they're like, okay, yeah, we're raising a strike now because this is not fair, like we can't do this. And then
Yeah.
like what's his name, Davey was like, no, are you guys crazy, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And then
it's like just live with it, like it's fine.
yeah. His brother was like, yeah, we're doing it, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
So
his little brother that's like 10.
I know. Yeah, and Jack said something like, if they ask you your age, say it's 7 instead of 10 or something.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
tend to give kids more money or to buy more.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to buy more
Yeah.
newspapers from kids because they're like, oh, you're a poor kid, I'll give you money.
Yeah, and he often like pretends to be like an orphan and like.
Yeah, worse in a worse situation that he's actually in.
Yeah, exactly.
And then his brother's like, why are you lying? And he's like, to get more money, obviously. He's
Yeah.
like, well, our dad taught us to be polite and to be not and to like tell the truth. And it's like, well, he needs money, so he needs to lie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love his little brother because he's just so like right on the
He
spot.
really
And he's, like,
he gets so
fearless.
into the Newsies really quickly.
I know, yeah, he loves them. He treats them like they're his own brothers.
Yeah, like you know on the like how they like the handshake where they like spin their hand and then do the handshake. He does that like immediately. Like he sees Jack Kelly and he was like, all right, and then he just does it.
Yeah, what was the deal? It was like they were gonna because they were gonna split the money.
Oh, yeah.
Because and then that's how that happened. And then the strike, they start forming the strike,
Yeah, and then Davey is like, hey, you need all these requirements to even do a strike. It's like, okay, well, we have the requirements.
Yeah, we have all of them.
We have all the requirements.
Like they actually like do it. They like get into it, and then
yes.
Catherine starts writing an article, which is where watch what happens.
Yes, because she gets into, she's like, hey, I know no one's gonna talk about you guys, like ever.
So let me support you guys.
Yeah, because and then they're all just like, a girl.
Yeah.
What? What do you mean?
Yeah, and then she's like writing that paper with like a bunch of anxiety because Jack
She's
is like
never written
right
anything
in the
before, and at first when she writes it, it's like not great. She like does a really bad job writing it,
Mhm.
and she's like stressing out. She's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then eventually, like it like halfway through the song, it like hits her. It's like, oh, I know what to write. And then she writes her whole thing
Yeah. And then
and
she
releases it.
writes it like she knew it from the beginning.
Hmm.
And then like after that, the next day, like after she writes the newspaper, she doesn't show up in the morning like she was supposed to. But and like which is kind of along the topic where like only like a few newsies end up showing up for um
Yeah.
the strike, and they get all discouraged like, oh, what's this even worth? And then Davy starts like encouraging them and being
Yeah.
like, guys, we can do this. And that's
Yeah,
when
because aren't they
Susie
like
gets,
pro? Yeah, because they're like protesting against it, and then
uh-huh.
a bunch like I think in or at least in the musical, there's like three newsies that are like not part of the group that like kind of walk up and buy some, and then
I
everyone was
know.
like, and they just walk up and they're like, hey, excuse me,
Yeah, like what are you doing?
and then they figure out that they were paid probably to do that. They're probably paid to just go
Uh-huh.
up and pretend to buy them.
Yeah.
Um,
And then they persuade them to be like, ah, screw it, we're doing this
yeah,
together.
and then each one of them slowly go to them and be like, I'm gonna strike too. Um, which
Yeah.
eventually at the end they get like all the newsies and like all around New York from like every corner to like
Hmm.
do the strike.
Yeah. And then it becomes like a worldwide thing. And then um after like they do it, oh, wait.
Oh wait,
Oh
what?
wait, never mind, never mind. I was thinking of
Okay.
the wrong thing. I was thinking of the wrong thing. But then
Okay.
like after Seize the Day and stuff like that, like there comes this point where like the cops and the Delancey brothers come and
Mm-hmm.
they just like beat them all up.
Yeah,
And they
and
just
they
like,
take Crunchy.
I know,
I was so
because he
sad.
can't defend
He can't
himself.
defend himself. Like the only way
Yeah,
for him to get away fast enough for someone to pick him up, pretty much.
no.
And no one
And
could pick him up in time because they were kind of all fending for themselves.
yeah, and he got beat with his own like crutch. Like
Yes, they
it
like tore
was
him down, like literally beat him, and then they
mm-hmm.
brought him to I don't what's it called? Like where did they bring him to?
The refuge.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
which
that's
they
what
don't
it was.
treat them well there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
They like
um,
give them barely enough food. They like have like three to a bed or something like that. I think.
uh-huh. Yeah, and then he's there, and then Jack, poor Jack. He's like feels like it's all his fault, and
Yes.
Crunchy's in jail now, and um,
Yeah,
he feels
because
like it's all
Crutchy
his
and
fault.
him are like best friends. Like
I
they're really
know.
tight.
Yeah,
They
and
live
then
on the same. They
on the
they sleep on
rooftop.
the same rooftop.
Yeah, and
Which reminds
he
me of the
just like
set. We should talk about that at some
I
point
know,
when you
yeah.
finish your thought.
And then Santa Fe comes, and he's like, again, he just wants to get away from here because it's just like such a sad life for him because he has no hope
Yes.
even at 17.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, yeah, and then that's where Act One ends.
Hmm.
So
Um, which I guess that's a good time. If that's where Act One ends, that's a good time to to.
yeah,
So the sets are very, very, very cool.
uh-huh,
They're
yeah.
so
This
it's
is
pretty
like
much like a.
intermission.
Mm-hmm. So like pretty much like during not during what? So pretty much like the sets are like kind of like they remind me of like the stairs going up to like a building, like a really tall building. You know the stairs on the outside?
Yeah,
That's like kind of
uh-huh.
what they are. I mean that's what they pretty much are. And pretty much the main set, which a lot of it goes around. Um and it's really really cool because they come apart and they come back together and people are like jumping through them and stuff and it's
I
really
know,
cool.
and the way they're climbing up them
Oh yeah,
too,
they climb
like
up
with
them
the
too.
stairs and on the sides too, like they're so cool. Like
Yes.
when I first saw it for the first time in like fourth grade, I was like, wow, like
I was
it
like,
was
they
pretty
have a
cool.
lot of trust.
Yeah, a
There's a
lot,
lot of trust. That's not gonna collapse.
but not as much trust as the fact that the top of the building for Sweeney Todd had no railing. It was just top of the building, and it was poor Glenn Terry who fell off of it so many times. That's
Mhm.
so sad. But the sets are more modern
The
now.
sets are a lot. They're really, really cool. And then I'll have a lot of like sets that come in, like the theater and the office of what's his name? Of office of Pulitzer, like his office. There's
Yeah,
another
I
set.
like that too.
There's a separate one for the basement, which we'll get to in of Pulitzer's like office thing. There's like a basement. Or is it a cellar or is it a basement?
It's like a cellar kind of thing, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but
yeah. So yeah, and so there's that, and it's really, really good. I really, really like it. It's very, very interesting, very nice, and then also the costumes, which are very, very, really good. Like the Newsies, they all have like kind of like clothes are kind of torn up, really dirty. Like some of them have like smudges on their face. Because they can't shower. What are they gonna shower in, mud? Like
exactly, they don't have nothing. Yeah, they all their clothes are like really like raggedy, and like they all have like the same newsboy hats, and that's kind of like their uniform costume
in a way.
Because
like, the news is like from the sun.
Yeah.
Keeps their head warm.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the other people have like a lot of really like posh and like nice costumes. Because they're higher class. Like Catherine.
Yeah, the guy. What's his name? Oh, Les. When they go to the theater, he's like really like amazed because with the performers, like they're in like leotards, and he's like, I can see their legs.
It's like they're naked.
I know, yeah.
Because at that time, legs were like a. Whoop.
Yes.
I see her legs.
Yeah, and it was like. That tells a lot about the time too. Like all the ladies had to wear dresses and.
The thing is, I didn't even notice their legs. Because kind of like I'm kind of used to Hamilton. Where like, because obviously it's really hard because they have to dance in Hamilton too, where it's like it's hard for them to like really have like big dresses and have to crawl on the floor. Like, so like I just kind of saw it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't even notice it, and it was like they have legs, and I was like, oh, they do.
Wow, no kidding. Yeah, the costumes are pretty cool for the show. I really like Meta's dress, the like pink one. That one's really cool. And I really so like I was talking about tap dancing the other day because I used to be in tap, but then I quit. I don't know why I did, but I should have stayed. Anyway, tap shoes, like the tap shoes they had for so for the Newsies, they had like a brown tap shoe that was like more of a leather kind. But for Catherine, they had tap boots. And I was like, I didn't know those existed. Like, those were so cool. I loved how they had the like character boots and then like with the tap on it too. Like that was such a little convenient way, like cool little way of doing that. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Again, the shoes, like all these little things come into your character. Yeah. And like I remember when I would be in shows, like I would have to get a specific kind of shoe for my character. It wouldn't just be like or whatever.
Oh, you froze for a second. You're back. Okay, cute.
What just happened?
You froze for a second, but you came back.
Oh. I had
when I was Pugsley in Adam's Family, the internet connection is unstable. Oh no!
It does not say that for me.
Oh, I think it's my internet then. Okay, because you're frozen on my screen. Here, wait. Let's just.
Am I frozen?
Okay, 1 sec. We're gonna pause real quick. I'm gonna figure this out real quick. Okay, sorry about that. I had to change my internet. I had to figure that out real quick. But yeah. So when I was Pugsley in the Addams Family, and you were Alice, my character didn't dance or anything. He was a kid. He just like. Addams Family is not a very dance-heavy show at all. There's like the only really dance is like in the opening number, and that's it. And it's not even that hard of a dance. So like the twist, the bunny hop. So yeah, my shoes. I literally wore not Converse. I wore Vans. Those were my shoes.
Really?
Yes, I wore Vans.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't I thought they would make you at least wear character shoes or something.
She just looked at my shoes. She was like, "Those are good."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And like I remember, in Adam's Family, she was just like, yeah, those are fine, because she had worked with me in the year before with my shoes, and she knew what those looked like. Yeah. But I remember the year before, she was like, you have to have this shoe right here, this specific.
I don't have any character shoes. I should get character shoes. That's probably important.
I don't have any either. I have like these like Mary Jane shoes, but that's it. Yeah. So.
Okay, well, anyways, back to what we're talking about. Yeah, the
Newsies.
costumes in Newsies are very, very, very good.
Yes, they are.
Very
They're
fit to the
very well.
characters,
Yeah.
and yeah, just to fit like like I guess what is it? What like what is it? What class they're in?
Yeah, yeah. That's a big thing in the musical, like social
hmm
class, and it's all like the whole thing is like about like the underdogs and how they can have like power too, like, not just the
Yes.
rich social classes and stuff.
Yeah.
So then, uh, once Act Two begins,
Okay. Getting
even
back
though
into
like
the acts, into the story.
yeah, we had a brief intermission, but now we're back.
Brief intermission. Talk about the sets and the
Yeah.
costumes.
Um, and so when we get back to it, like everything's kind of just like sad because they just like experienced that. But then this guy's like, "Wait, guys, stop! We're famous. We're on the
Yeah.
front cover," and
Yeah.
they're like, "We're the kings of New York," and Catherine and the Newsies are like celebrating their little
Yeah.
victory. Okay, so talking about that's where like the big fat tap number was, where they were doing like
Yes.
so much tap. Like that
Yes.
is so talented.
Mm-hmm.
Tapping is kind of a hard thing to do. I was never good
Yeah.
at it when I did it. But I was like 5, so it didn't matter. Like that's something like that is crucial in musical theater, like tap dancing, and it's just they're doing it so well. Like they're so in sync, and like
Yeah.
I love their shoes.
I mean, they are on Broadway.
Yeah, that is true. I remember in the local one that I saw though, they had it too, and I was
Really?
like,
Whoa.
wow. And they also had all the back handsprings and all that, and I was like, this is. I'm getting like ripped. Like I'm not getting ripped off here. I'm like my price is too low for this show because Broadway tickets are pretty expensive, and
They're
that one
very
was like really
expensive.
good, especially for a local show. Like
Yeah.
what? And then what happens after that? Oh, the Crutchies writing a letter to
That song was so
Jack.
sad.
It was, and talking about the really sad conditions of the refuge as well.
Yeah. And
Like
that's
that
when we
was so
really
sad.
see the refuge for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of a
Yeah.
dark cellar with
Mhm.
very minimal light, like
And no
just
food.
that, like yeah, barely any food. A bunch of beds just like pushed together, like
And like
there's no
everything's on
space.
top of each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
and all he has his little candle to light up his
Yeah.
room. Yeah, it's so sad. I felt so bad for him. He was just
A candle
basically like,
literally burning on like the
on the side of the bed.
yeah.
Yeah, and I felt bad because he was just like, he didn't even like deserve to go there.
He
He couldn't
didn't.
fend for himself. Like
Yeah,
that
he could literally couldn't do anything. And
yeah,
Jack felt absolutely like again, he felt absolutely horrible
yeah.
after
And he
that.
wanted to like write to him so bad, but the like phone line was so too slow or like something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, that was so sad. And then he like encourages Jack and the Newsies to stick together because he's still like, I'm with you guys even though he's not. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Emotional support, moral support.
Yeah. And then after that the what happens reprise happens. And then basically that's the one where Davy's like, Jack, get back in the game. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Because he was so like sad and he couldn't.
Yeah, isn't he just painting a
He
background?
was painting Santa Fe.
Ah.
It wasn't even like for the thing. He was just
to paint.
painting it. Yeah, and then there was a political cartoon on the back of this.
Oh
board.
yeah, he did. He made one.
Yeah, and he was like, "You want to
representing
see a
the
real
Newsies.
place? This is a real place." And he was like, "That's what's happening." And it was Pulitzer's shoe crushing all of them.
Yeah.
Which was the sad truth at the time.
Yeah.
But they ended up.
At least they thought at the time they couldn't do anything.
Yeah. And then finally he's like, "Fine, I'll get back into it." And then, but then he's in a pickle because this was where he was just really like stuck because Catherine decided to take him to the to Pulitzer as a trick because she was like Pulitzer was actually her father all
Which
along.
we find out,
And
yeah.
yeah, and he gets trapped, and his two
Also, they're like love interests, if we didn't mention that.
oh yeah, that comes well they'll that comes a little bit later.
Well, yeah,
But
it's kind of like slightly shown throughout it,
yeah, but
like
they're
there's
like
very
kind of like
subtle hints.
conflicting
Yeah,
resources. Love
because they're kind of like
resources.
the opposite ends of like classes.
Yeah, exactly. And they kind of like didn't like each other from the
Yeah, like,
beginning. But
well, I feel
they
like Jack kind of liked her.
well, yeah, but like she was very resistant towards him.
Yeah, because she's like the highest high class and he's the lowest
Mhm.
low class.
Yeah, and then after that, his two choices were either to be sent to the refuge with all of his newsies, or to leave New York, cancel the strike, and leave with a bunch of cash.
Oh yeah,
Which
he would give him
obviously,
cash. That was the thing. He would give him cash to
yeah,
do
like
it.
which obviously the better option seems with all the cash.
And
But
it
he
wasn't
leaves
just like a few cents. Like it was like a wad of cash.
it was like a bunch. It was like yeah, and um and he was like obviously the better choice seems like taking the money and leaving New York. And but then again, he has to leave his newsies and leave everyone behind. And
Yes.
it's just like traitor behavior. Like
Yeah.
that's not very nice. And so he gets sent to the refuge, and that's very sad. And then eventually, though, the Newsies have a rally at the theater, and then they end up. I think something. I can't quite remember what happened, but they like don't they like get him out of jail somehow or something like that.
I
I can't.
think he like kind of like he accepted the money then.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, sorry. He accepted the money, and
Yeah, he accepted the money, and then he went to he tried to like somewhat convince them to stop, but he tried to do it subtly. It's like, hey, we'll convince them, they'll bring it down, but then in like 2 weeks they'll bring it back up, and which
yeah.
can be true. That is a likely possibility.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but
And
they're just like, what? That's literally so stupid, and
yeah,
they literally like force him out of the theater
I know. Yeah.
because they're all
And
mad at him. They're like, what the heck? You're freaking backstabbing us.
exactly. Yeah, and then like the somewhere but in between all that, Jack finds like Catherine on the rooftop, and then they like sing their little song and talking about how they have like
hmm
each other and like someone to believe in finally. And then
Yeah.
like and then there was somewhere, I think it's like Once and For All, where they sneak into Pulitzer's thing and print their paper, and then they end up like distributing their
Oh
paper.
wait, that's what happened. That's what happened. Okay, I remember now. So instead, he didn't really accept nor deny it, and so they threw
Yeah.
him in the cellar thing in the basement.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And then he found that that's where he was like, you can sleep on this old printing press that no one uses because it's old and it's gross.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then it's like, you can sleep on that. And it was like, okay. And so he sleeps in the cellar and then eventually accepts, which goes back to what we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
And then eventually he's like, wait, because every single printing press is run by what's his name?
Pulitzer.
Run by him, like every single one, except for the one in the cellar.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so they're like, we can just go to this one right here. And it's like, okay, well, how are we gonna get all of our newsies in there without him noticing?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so they figured out, and they also, were like the janitor or something. Or I don't know what he was called, but like he was
Yeah.
kind of like a janitor. And he was like, what's her name? Catherine was like,
Yeah.
he had been working here since he was 10 and he hasn't gotten a raise since then. So she's pretty much on our side.
Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
because Pulitzer is like a disgusting, gross human being.
Yeah. Who
And
does,
so
all he cares about is his money and not anyone
Mhm.
else.
Yeah. And so eventually they get to the printing press. They print out like a bunch of newspapers, not newspapers, like a bunch of posters to
Mm-hmm.
use and like put out throughout the town.
It was like pamphlets or something, like poster pamphlet. I can't remember. Something like.
So yeah, they do that, and then eventually they go and like protest and stuff.
And then,
Oh.
like, I just remembered, I was thinking of the show I saw. It was so funny because this, like, kid was playing Governor Roosevelt, and it was so funny. But, finally, Pulitzer only agrees to change things if the governor shows up, and he shows up, and so
And the
they
governor's
come to
on
an
their
agreement.
side.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
And
he's friends with, what's her name? He's friends with...
Meta?
Yes, her.
Oh. Yeah, and then they come to an agreement where they're like, okay, fine, we'll have the price that we raised it, and then, but we'll also buy back any unsold papers.
Yes,
which is
so
finally
it's...
fair.
Which is like, yeah, anytime they don't sell a paper, they'll buy it back from them. And he's like, well, Newsies are just going to buy a bunch of papers and then not sell them. And he's like, that's literally so stupid. Why would we want to carry on, like, thousands of papers? That's so
Exactly,
dumb.
yeah.
Like, we don't want to carry on so many papers all day. Like, just give us back, like, a money for, like, 10 papers we didn't sell.
Yeah, exactly. And then Jack is finally like, well, I belong in New York, and I have Catherine here, and the Newsies are my friends.
And then they kiss. Actually, no, they kissed earlier in the show.
They kiss
we
earlier.
We completely forgot that.
I
They
know.
kiss a lot early in the show.
Yeah, they kiss during Something to Believe in, and they like are talking
Which is like,
about,
because he thinks she's a traitor.
Yeah, and then he gets all mad, and then she's like talking to him, and then they were like talking about how they have someone to believe in now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then he's like realizes he belongs in New York, and he gets that fantasy out of his head.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, happy ending, pretty much. So
they get
not like some of the other musicals we had, like Sweeney and Little Shop were not very happy endings.
Not happy. Matilda, that was a happy ending.
Yeah, that was a
Waitress
happy
was too.
Yeah, Waitress was too.
Which was a very emotional ending.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked.
Good.
There's like he ended up with Catherine. You know they.
Mhm. Yeah, that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. And,
like at the end, like he was like he kissed her, and then then the news started like making fun of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love like one of my favorite things in the whole show is like the whole like togetherness.
Yes, they seem like they like been like the cast like seem like they've known each other for like years. Like they really seem like they were. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they kind
they're
of
so
are
close.
Yeah,
because like that's the only family they really have.
Exactly.
And so they're like really close. They're like constantly joking with each other and like.
Yeah. And they like can be like true around each other. Like they can make fun of each other and laugh at it. They don't get all like mad or something like that. So yeah, it was a really good show. I really just
highly recommend.
Yeah, it's so good. It is so good.
Yes. And the music's beautiful, amazing.
I know the music is really good. Probably the biggest numbers are probably the best ones, and the characters are really good too. It's a like it's a cast like on Broadway. It's more like men oriented, but it's a cast where Newsies can be females or males. Really.
Yeah, because the Newsies can really be. I mean, although at the time Newsies were mainly males.
Really? And that's why they do that on Broadway because they like do that more professionally. But like the show,
which is actually I feel like I very rarely see shows with a heavily male cast.
Yeah, it's like
because there's only like 3 females in the whole show.
Yeah, and like
there's a few like background characters, but like really the main like there's only like 3, and the rest are all males, which is very like a rare sight kind of.
Yeah, it's like few shows are like that, and they're usually older shows. Yes. But what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, the show I saw, the majority of the Newsies were girls. So
yeah, because I feel like in more like community theater or like local theaters, it's harder to find a lot of guys.
Yeah,
too.
It is. It's because it's not really that common anymore, like to have men in theater, which is so sad. But
yes,
yeah. But yes, we definitely recommend you go watch it. Go listen to it. It's really easy to watch if you have Disney Plus. You can just do it.
And if you don't, I recommend Disney Plus. There's so many musicals on it.
Yeah, there's Hamilton. There's Newsies. I feel like there's more.
There has to be more. There's not more that I'm currently aware of, but there has to be more.
Yeah, I think there are more. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, there has to be. And if not, there's musical movies.
I know there are. I feel like I've seen one. I've seen like, it wasn't exactly the Little Mermaid musical, but it was like a live version of Little Mermaid.
Live version, yeah.
Those stuff. There's stuff like that. But yeah, I highly, if you don't have Disney Plus, get it. Not not paid by Disney Plus, but like get Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could find it online somewhere. If not,
Yeah.
like somewhere,
Mhm.
just find it.
There's probably a slime tutorial or two.
Yeah, because Jeremy Jordan's the most famous slime creator out there. So.
Uh-huh. Yeah. He makes very good dirt slime. Uh,
Very
so yeah,
good.
very good slime.
But yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
check out our like social medias and
mhm.
stuff. So our Instagram is at Musical Chairs Podcast, Twitter at Podcast Chairs. I think that's really TikTok,
We have a
Musical Chairs
TikTok
Podcast
too.
again.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out that out and yeah.
What else? I feel like we have more than that for some reason. But...
I don't think our Patreon.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Our Patreon is $3 a month. You can get access to all of our podcasts early, and you get to vote on future musical topics.
And like which musical we do next. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and also we release like what musical we're doing on our social medias like a few days before we release it. We say like, "Hey, we're doing this musical."
And by the way, what we recommend doing, since we release it 2 days in advance, is at least watching it before
Yes. Watch
before
it or listen to it. Like check out like, "Hey, look, it's like this week Newsies." I mean, people already know now because they're listening to this. But like, "Hey, look, it's Newsies." I'll listen to Newsies before the show so that you know like
what we're talking
about and you're not completely unaware. But
exactly.
thank you
But
for
we
watching
still
Musical
make it
Chairs.
like make sense if you are unaware. So
But thank you for watching Musical Chairs. I'm Joshua.
I'm Chloe.
Goodbye.
Bye. See you later.